upside down. Just accept who I am.
There you go.
I am who you say I am. That's what God created me. All right. There's music sheets, so if I fumble, I read something else. It's not my story. Sorry. All right. I know my husband is very excited to hear what I've got to say, but he has no idea what I'm saying. So we'll see how excited he'll be at the end. A bunch of us one Saturday, we were here in a meeting, and the leader that day asked each one of us, he said, what food describes you today? Describes your mood. So I think we had, I don't remember every answer, but we had, I think, like from, I feel like stale oats, and somebody said, I feel like refreshing smoothie. So I think what I said was, I feel like soup. Plain and simple, soup. Because soup, you know, it's got a lot of ingredients, it's got a lot of little things, and but it's full of surprises. So if I were to describe to you what you can expect from my story, probably jambalaya soup, okay? A little bit of everything, but I pray that God will be that yolk, that egg, to just glue it all together to make sense to us and to minister through what I'm going to share. As I was thinking what route to go, how to go about sharing my story, I was just thinking about my background, and it's like, man, my dad's story is so much cooler than mine. So I wish I could share his, but I won't. So I'll stick with my story, but I will give you a little bit of my background. So I grew up in Republic of Moldova in a Christian home, but it was during when Moldova at that time was still part of USSR, during Perestroika time, if you know history. But in spite of the fact that it was communism, I did grow up in a Christian home. My mom was a very strong believer, still is. And in spite of the fact that she had very difficult circumstances, she just loved the Lord all the more. Her mom died, she lost her mom to cancer on her birthday when she turned her sweet 16. She had to give up school, college, so she can support her family. She had a pastor, her pastor was a KGB informant, and all her life she struggled with her health. So in spite of all that, she just embraces life, embraces even her birthday, even if it brings bad memories. She embraces life and loves Jesus. My father, on the other hand, is a tricky guy. He comes from being a Red Army soldier. He was working with missiles and things like that, protecting Russia, Mother Russia, from the Americans. You know how they can be. You know what I'm saying? I have a path. Oh, never mind.
You're stuck,
So,
man. You married into it.
I know, I have to make it up to my husband later for saying that, but I'll give you my flower. So he comes from that. His parents are Christians, but he's very, very claustrophobic to Christians. He's very allergic to anything to do with Christians. But he turns from that, I'm not going to go into his story, but he goes from that to being an unstoppable evangelist. When he gives up the dream to go to America, actually I think it was my mom's dream, but never mind, he gives up the dream to go to America, which stands that possibility to go to America was an option for him for many years and still is. He gives that up so he can start about 30 churches in Moldova. He is so creative in the way he does things. When he hears that Billy Graham is coming to communist Moscow, what he does is, he doesn't have an invitation. He had to have a very specific invitation to enter the church building. He flies all the way to Moscow, but he knows the janitor, okay? You need to know who you make friends with, all right? Janitors have power. So he gets locked in the bathroom overnight, and he gets to see Billy Graham. All right, and Billy Graham found out about it a few years ago. He's so crazy, I can use crazy, right? He's such a risk taker, okay? He senses during the communism, kind of in the perestroika time, he senses that gas prices are gonna skyrocket, like in no other country. They're gonna skyrocket. So he decides to buy pretty much a gas station, about 10 tons or more than 10 tons of petrol, and he puts it in the backyard. Our house just about explodes because it's in the middle of the summer. Things are bubbling. Never mind, we'll survive, praise Jesus. But he does all that, and that gas fuel that Jesus will use for my father and a tiny team that he created are going to do ministry for 3 to 4 years, every single day of the week. No break, 3 times on Sunday. And the last drop they use, the next day, the gas prices go back to normal. Tell me if that's not a Jesus thing, okay? And he's got the never quit mentality, right? He goes to Italy to see if he's able to be put on a transplant list. So on a Friday, he's told by the whole board of the hospital, this huge hospital, he's told, by the way, we think you are not a good candidate to have liver transplant. So you need to go home, spend your last month you have, because water was in his body, his liver was failing. So he's told Friday, please go home, be with your family, because you don't have much more. You would not, medically speaking, you would not be a successful liver. We don't want to waste a good liver on you. So he's told that you need to go home and die. Sunday, stubborn as he is, he decides, I'm gonna just go start a church in Italy, a Romanian speaking church, okay? Because if I'm gonna die, might as well go die working in the field for Jesus. So now you understand where that there's a lot to compete there with, okay? I lived with heroes of faith in my eyes. So you might think that I should have it all together. I probably was, baptized when I was 3 because I understood everything and could quote, John 3:16 before I could say mama. But I didn't. When I was 9, I think, a kid asked me in school. It's interesting that we had those conversations. If my kids are here, that kiss my boo-boo. So I was in school, and it's interesting that we had those discussions. But a little girl asked me, "So do you go to heaven? Do you know that stuff?" And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure God will tell us when we get there. But I'm pretty sure I probably would go to heaven because I know mom and dad. I mean, we're, related, so I'm sure they'll talk about me and they'll put the good word in with Jesus. Well, little did I know that faith, this is an issue in Romania, faith is personal. Faith is not hereditary. If we can learn one lesson from this, is that faith is personal. It's not hereditary. It has nothing to do with our family, with what they did. It's personal. But later when I was 11, it was an evangelistic, huge outreach with Franklin Graham in a village next to ours. It was a huge stadium, if you know how those look like. Well, my parents were running around, doing things, evangelizing, being involved, singing, praying, whatever it was. Me too, I was very busy doing that, running around, sweating like a piggy and getting, it had nothing to do with my parents were doing. But that night I was running, so it was really a hot day. I had not drank water that day. And that evening I had a bursting headache. But we had guests at the house, and as it was tradition in Moldova, the kids entertained the guests. So my mom asks me, "Naty, would you sing a song?" Okay, yes, Mom. I don't feel good, but yes, I'm an obedient child. So I stand up, I start singing, and the next thing I know, I screamed from the top of my lungs that houses around the farm could hear. And then I ran out of the house. I don't remember anything else. And then suddenly, I woke up in my father's arms outside. That thing traumatized me quite a bit, because you know what happened? It definitely created some severe panic attacks for many years, till I was about 20. Severe panic attacks. I had no idea what they were, so I started hiding these from my parents, because they were panicking more than I did. So when I was 11, I had to put myself together and hide well and try to pretend I'm okay. It blessed me with other thorn in the flesh that I'm not going to share about, that to this day it has affected me. But you know what? Each one of us is blessed with a thorn in the flesh. For some, it may be a spouse that is a struggle to live with. For some, it might be not having children. For some it might be singleness, for some it might be a sickness or other things, or having an unbeliever in the family. We all have thorns of the flesh. But one thing I had to learn is that, yes, I prayed like Paul for Jesus to remove it. But if he doesn't, embrace it, people. Embrace it, love it, shine your thorn, okay? It's okay. You can thrive. You don't have to just survive. You can thrive, okay? So this is where Christianity is different. You can survive, not just that, you can thrive. You can have Jesus' joy in spite of what's going on in your life. So that event scared me a lot as a kid. As 11-year-old, I had to grow up a lot. Not physically. I didn't get taller, so that's a given. You can see, or you can see actually from the back. But it made me go back to that question that the kid asked me. So I asked my Mom, if I die, because I'm pretty scared, what happens to me? So my mom talked to me. And I know for some people, salvation or accepting Jesus in your heart, for some, it's an event. I prayed the prayer, like for Paul. It was an event. It happened there. Dramatic change. For me, it was more of a process, honestly, than an event. But I still wanted, although it was a process, I still wanted for this to be more than that. So I did finish it with an event. I came and publicly declared Jesus as my Lord when I was 11 in an evangelistic outreach. But then I went to high school. Glad Stella is here. She can attest to all my crazies, but do not ask her questions about that. We got a scholarship to go to Romania. So I'm from Moldova. We got a scholarship to go to Romania. We were 14, turning 15. And we were about 30 Moldovans. I don't remember exactly the number, but around that, more or less. Just me is like having 5, so, but we lived in a dorm, all clumped together, all Moldovans, in a strange country. When we first got there, we were 3 of us Christians, me, Stella, and Angie, my friend from Moldova. We grew up together since we were tiny. We went to church together, so we were Christians. Our classmates were not. So they thought of us very weird. And they thought we were going to sacrifice them at night. Stella is like shaking because she knows how true this is. We could not find the 4th roommate. They kept on swapping. We had no idea why. They thought we were going to eat them up at night. It's like, wow, interesting. But with time, not because we were so cool teenagers and so Christians, obviously somehow things changed. And in time, you could see that our classmates respected who we were. They changed their vocabulary around us. In recess, 30 Moldovans during class, all teenagers, talking about Jesus, praying before we had the test, singing about Noah's Ark, Sunday school songs. Only Jesus can do that to a bunch of teenagers far away from home. At 6 a.m. in the morning, before heading to the diner or to the breakfast room, we would meet, and half of the class would meet and have a quiet time, a devotional. Now you tell me if that's not the Jesus thing. My father would tell me a lot of times, we may be the only gospel someone may ever read. So those kids thought we were cannibals. We were still weird, okay? Granted, we were weird. We had outfits, long skirts, long hair. You see me in pants today, short hair. There's a reason. But we were acting weird, but still, God only could change that. And we were the only gospel they ever read because we were vocal about our faith. And we were the only gospel. And do remember that you go through the week, you may be the only gospel that people may read. No pressure. Actually, do take some pressure in that. But then later, actually, right around high school time, before leaving for high school, that's when I met my husband for the first time. It was not love at first sight. It would have been illegal. Okay, he was a little older. He was past high school. He was bored of high school already. But he became my best friend. He became my oldest brother. I do have 2 older brothers, so please don't tell him I said that. But he became my best friend. It's true, we probably were arguing more then than now. We're fighting more then than now. And my my dad asked me to translate, especially summer camps, youth camps, children camps, and sometimes even sermons. Although I can come up with my own sermons, so he thought, okay, just stick with the youth camps. But we say that had my dad known that this would end up like this, probably he would have learned English himself. That was a risk he took. But we got married 5 years later. After a 10-year honeymoon, Jesus blessed us and allowed us to bring 2 green-eyed sisters into our home. They were 5 and 6 at the time, half of my size, but for me still quite big compared to what we were wanting to adopt one baby. When I first met the girls, Bill was traveling to the States alone. So now when he travels to the States, he's not alone because he risks of having more kids in the house. So he doesn't go alone, okay? Not on no travels. People were so excited for us that we had the girls. They were just, oh, congratulations, so excited. I know you've been wanting to have kids for a long time. And all I could tell myself was condolences to myself. I mean, school, going from nothing to from a 10-year honeymoon to suddenly school, figure out school, and there was a lot of stress with that. More laundry, more rules, more things that people come up, with raising a 5 and a 6-year-old. They come up with that set of, boundaries and structure and rules and traditions in their home. We had to have it not in 6 years, but in 6 weeks. Okay, so for me, it was like, read all the books on parenting and try to be discerning about it. And I would ask people, a lot of parents, questions because I was clueless. I was a very great mom before having kids. But then when they came into my home, I'm like, what do you do with these bundles of things? They were very obedient on the first day. They colored all day. I'm like, piece of cake. Buy a lot of coloring books, it's gonna be easy. Second time they come into our home, it's like stamping feet all the time because I don't want pants, I want dress, I'm like, oh my goodness, color a book. But it didn't work that way. So they tell us that it takes about 12 months to adjust to each other and to create the affection towards and bonding and connection. Well, we didn't, it was very struggling to connect to these 2 little girls that I felt like intruded my life. I know I accepted them, but they intruded my life. I had a wonderful relation. That's one thing that Jesus has blessed me with, is having an amazing relationship with my best friend, and they were intruding on that. I didn't have any more time with my husband. But in this time, it's 9 months. We're still trying to adjust to the tantrum fits and everything else. And then 9 months into it, my husband has a severe heart attack on a Sunday morning. It's a good time, it's true, because people can come to church and pray, so I granted good planning. But that scared me so bad. But that scared those little girls, that they're gonna lose their new daddy. So although we, remember one of the elders sent to me a text message. I think I was a little outraged at the moment I received it, but the more I read that verse, I'm like, that makes sense. And the verse he sent to me was, my flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart, my pumping heart and my spiritual heart, and my portion forever. And it became true because I needed a lot of strength. The heart attack and the girls, adjusting to the girls, was just the tip of the iceberg for the next 2 years. Things were gonna snowball from now on, and I had no idea what to look forward to. So the doctors, by God's grace, I can look in hindsight and say, thank you, Jesus, for being a God of details, because the heart attack happened 3 days before we had to be in an airplane traveling to the States. So praise God for God of details, that He has mercy. But when Bill came home from the heart attack, the doctors told us very clearly, we need for you to take your husband home and make sure he's in a very calm environment because he still is risking a heart attack. Sure. So you haven't met my girls, right? They're already mischievous and trying to adjust to us and me adjusting to them and so on. But one of our girls, she got so scared, she didn't know how to manage her fear. And she got in such a great crisis, anger crisis. We didn't know what to do anymore. We didn't know how to react. I'm just trying to figure out how to feed you, send you to school, and just do the basic stuff. What? You're just trying to destroy the house. Furniture was rearranged. I mean, upside down, more like. Apparently, it was in style for her. She would take hard things, objects from the house, and toss them at me. And I'm needing to make sure he's turning pale while she's doing that, screaming from the top of the lungs that the whole building would hear this. They would think we were killing her. We had to record some of this just to prove to the child services that we're not doing anything. So I remember one day an elder was visiting at our house, and she slammed so hard the door that the picture on the wall fell. I mean, it was tension. And probably not enough words will describe to what was going on in our house. But God was my strength. I felt like, Jesus, give me strength for this whole season, whatever is going on. And I had no idea this is just the beginning. But Jesus gave me just enough for now. Not even for 2 hours later. God's grace, sometimes it needs to be okay with us, that God's grace will be okay enough for now. He might give me just spoon sizes of grace, and that should be okay for us. God will give us enough strength, and we should be okay with that. But I felt like my daughter's going to kill my husband. And I was afraid. Every single day, I was lashing out with my words at her that you're going to kill my husband. You need to cut it out. Or go where you came from. I was not a loving parent because I was acting like a scared cat in a corner. I felt like she's going to take the best thing that's happened to me. And I remember talking to a lady. Although I took my daughter to counselors and psychologists, name it, I've done it. Until I realized, somebody said, and I didn't like what they said, but they're like, Naty, you need help. Not your daughter, you need help. Stop taking her places. You need to see counselors. We talked to somebody in Seattle, a lady who adopted 15 kids. Okay? She's got something to say. And they're like from Ukraine, abused, and so on. So she had something to say, so I heard her. She's like, Naty, you're giving your daughter too much credit. She doesn't have the power to kill your husband. Okay? Her yelling, her anger is not going to kill your husband. God is sovereign. He just survived a heart attack, for crying out loud. How can she do that? So she's not sovereign. God is. And if your husband survived this, even more the glory to God that we beat all the books. Okay? We need to write a new medical book because Bill is still here and he's thriving. But a month later, we're planning to go to the States. We're repacking. We're planning to go to the States with that same ticket. And the day before, I saw some strange numbers on my daughter's blood test, and one of them. And we go there and they tell us, your daughter has diabetes type 1, insulin dependent, so please settle in the hospital. You'll be here for the next 10, 20, whatever days until you figured out how to survive at home. Like, what? I'm sorry, ma'am, but I really gotta go. I have to pack. That was my only concern. I had no idea what diabetes was. I thought, could you please just tell me what she could eat? I mean, is it fruit? Is it veggies? What? And we'll make it work. No, ma'am, she'll go into a diabetic coma if you don't know. I'm like, oh. So I had to learn what's diabetes, what's insulin, how to take shots, how to poke. Honestly, I was so mad at her, I was happy to poke her. But don't tell her that. Now I do it with gentleness, but she wonders, why did it hurt first, Mom, and now it's much better? Well, there's an explanation. So,
He heard you.
I think somebody's recording this. Okay, Mina asked, Mommy, can I read your story after the church where I can make it up to you? So I had to learn to calculate carbs. Life was going to be a lot more restricting. Calculating, I was trying to figure out all the pills my husband needs to take in order to be alive, and my daughter, not what? I was getting very weary, very sick, very physically, emotionally, spiritually drained. Then we thought, okay, we're going to deal with this as well. Then we decide to pack again, right? The same ticket. British Airways loves us. We probably were on a first name basis at that point, or not, because and we tried to go to the States again. And the day before, the we go to the doctors, they do an ultrasound on my husband's heart to make sure he's okay for travels. Now, whenever you go to the doctor, that's not good news, right? So we go to the doctor, they tell us, your husband has a blood clot to the heart, it's a new thing. If it goes loose, he's gonna either die or have a stroke. Excuse me, we have God. Hello, I'm kind of little here. How much more are you gonna give me? I started just crying. How much more? Tomorrow we have a plane ticket that I've been looking for and I've been postponing for you, but how much more? So we had to teach our girls a lot of, CPR and all that stuff. If daddy falls down, this is what you do. If mommy falls down, this is what you do. And you make daddy go like this, say smile. So to make sure they know the difference between stroke, because they said it can happen at any time. We traveled to the States anyway, in spite of all the doctors telling us don't, because we figured his life is in God's hands. And be it at home in the bedroom or in an airplane, it's up to Jesus. He can't live in fear anymore. So we did go to the States. But Jesus tells us to be joyful in hope and be all excited, right? Rejoice in the Lord. How can you do that when things just keep on going? And this is not the end of the story. The next year, while Bill and our oldest are kind of more normal, well, we're normal, kind of, but I mean health-wise. And by the way, the anger crisis that one of our girls had, they came back at least 2 more times, just as severe, just as pounding, even during the blood clot and the whole thing. So during this whole time, there's not 1 minute, not 1 day where it meets us, not 1 day when we could actually have a restful 8 hours. That's it. We couldn't sleep at night because we thought we had to hide our sharp objects in the house, okay? She was trying to run away. It was never a dull moment, let's say. But after they were stable and things were, and by God's grace, honestly, only by God's grace, our daughter is managing anger, in such a beautiful way now. It's tossing a little crayon, but that's nothing, comparing to what being afraid of my life. And she's making amazing strides, and by God's grace, we've learned how to deal with them. But then after they were stable, I went to the doctor. Because I knew I had some health conditions. And then they put me on some strong meds. And those strong meds, for the next 9 months, they're gonna help me feel like I'm nauseous all the time. I feel like I'm gonna pass out 24/7. That moment, when you don't eat much, that was for me the case for 9 months, every single moment of the day. Dealing with the kids, dealing with that, dealing with the other. Feeling very, very lethargic. Whenever I would take the meds, I could not walk. I'd have to, I would go into the wall. They were very, very strong. So the doctors thought, okay, after 9 months, let's change to something else, something new, more expensive. This one, it gave me sort of more energy, because to the point so much that I couldn't sleep. So it sent me on the other side. I was not lethargic, but I was just exhausted because it gave me insomnia. And it put me in such deep depression that one night, and this went on for another 9 months, okay, of severe depression, craving to smile, and I couldn't. Coming downstairs, crying my heart out before coming downstairs to church, because I knew it's one more step. I just need to make it through the day. But I knew I had to stop these meds, because I knew the meds were gonna kill me before my condition that I was struggling with. So one after the other, I felt like 2016 and 2017 were just kept on snowballing in our life without any respite. And I know, as my friend says, it's illegal to compare pain. So please don't. Don't feel like, oh, my story is a lot better than yours. I struggle with a lot more. Or you might feel like, whew, thank you, Jesus, that's not me, okay? Do not compare struggle. It's illegal to compare pain, because each one of us, God is working different things in our lives. And what is painful for you may not be painful for me, but God knows how you're structured. God knows what He's working in your life. But each one of us, we gotta be real and admit that has been blessed with a burden, whatever it is. But we should see it as a blessing, because honestly, who I was 5 years ago, where I am now, God has changed so much in me. I'm still annoying, still sinful, but God has that 2-degree process we keep on talking even now, wake up group. The 2-degree process, God is working a lot in my life, that now I'm embracing, have more kids with trauma in our home. But I know that as Christians, we're going through a lot. And we need to tell the people that as Christians, we should not just survive, but we should thrive. We should have that Jesus joy in us. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's where Christianity should be different. When we hit struggle, do we have joy? Do we have hope? Romans 12:12 says, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful to prayer. How do you handle those struggles? Do you just go crazy? Are you complaining all the time that people around you, non-Christians, have to encourage you, pat you on the back? You're going to be okay. You're the Christian. You should encourage them through the example, because we might be the only gospel people will ever read. So that joy thing is real. That joy thing better be in our life. Doesn't mean hip hooray, okay? It's not going to be woohoo, it's fun. But being okay with the fact that it is what it is, and God's grace is sufficient. When I am weak, He is strong, because He gets the glory, not me. Not I, but Christ in me. I know Jerry Erickson Tada says that pain is kind of a bruise of a blessing, but it's still a blessing from God. And that's how Christ, God, meets us in the suffering. But even if it's just a bruise of a blessing, praise Jesus for that little bruise, because He's there with us. I can't imagine not knowing Jesus and going through that stuff. I would be in a crazy hospital. And I'm giving you just a short version of it. The Bible says, we are hard-pressed on every side, okay? Believer or non-believer, but even believers, even more, probably we're even more attacked, because Satan has them safe. You're fine. But we as Christians, we are pressed on every side, but not crushed, okay? Perplexed. We may not understand everything that's going on. We may be perplexed, confused. It doesn't make any sense. Ask God why. If He wants, He'll answer. If not, be okay with the fact you'll find out in eternity. But not in despair. As believers, we do not have the right to be in despair, because we have hope in Jesus. Be joyful in hope. That's where we take our joy from. Persecuted but not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. We need to find that God has blessed each one of us with ways He has equipped us to know how to thrive. For me, I know Jill Briscoe asked us once at a conference, how do you cope with pain? For her, she said, for me it's writing. And that's when it clicked with me. I think for me too. So I started writing. It may not make sense to many people, but I love writing. So I started investing, taking classes of writing, starting a blog of writing. Music is amazing. So I started hitting the drums. So I went to hit them more harmoniously and took classes for drumming, for guitar, for anything. Yeah, sure, it may sound like I'm the jack of all trades, but I'm the master of none, okay? So I don't take credit for anything. But God has blessed each one of us with different things so we can thrive, so we can cope. But Christ is the one giving you those abilities, those things, equipping us. But our focus needs to be on Him. I'm going to end with this. We were going to Ireland, our family. It was June. And we waddled in the plane. Okay, we don't travel light, never. We have insulin, we have snacks, carbs, no carbs. We have teddy bears because we can't sleep without them at this point. We shove things in the plane. And as we shove things, we buckle up. Kids pretend you know how to act in public, so shh. As we go up, we teach our girls. Bill and I, we always pray before we go up. And we teach our girls to do the same. It was a cloudy, very cloudy day in Bucharest. So it was kind of a bumpy ride up. So I'm praying double. Okay, because it's bumpy. So I'm praying, Jesus, just make sure if we're safe, but if we don't, make it fast. So as I'm praying, teaching my girls to pray. Suddenly I hear my youngest, Bella, she's like, Daddy, tickles! It tickles! She loved those bumps, crazy little thing. So I'm like, okay, I cannot rely on her prayer because she might say, Jesus, may I have more? So I cannot, rely on her prayer. So praying a triple prayer here. And then as I'm continuing to pray, I hear the sisters, the singing choir. And you should be careful when you teach your kids songs because it comes back and bites. So as it's bumpy, I'm praying, they're singing, this is what they're singing. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away when I die. You don't say that when you're not playing. So careful what you teach your kids to say. Pray silently. Wait, we come back from Dublin on that same trip. Dublin, you've been there, it's cloudy. It's gonna be prayer time. I'm a prayer warrior in the plane. Okay. So we shove our stuff, we got more, right? We're tourists. Got the t-shirt, the mug, the magnets, we got it all. We shove it, we buckle up, we pray. No singing. Shh. No singing, pray. And as we're praying, after we prayed, Ella looks at me, she's like, Mommy, I wish you could fly much, much higher to where Jesus lives. I'm like, much, much higher, because I would like to see Jesus. I would like to see Jesus. It was bumpy again. It was cloudy, overcast, bumpy. We were rattling, and I'm like, Jesus, please don't drop us or make it fast. All she's thinking about, well, it's all bumpy. She's like, Jesus, I want to see Jesus today. When our life is overcast, when our life is shaken up by our circumstances, do we say like my dad, I want to see Jesus, more of you in my life, Jesus, because I'm struggling. I want to see you. Is that my desire? Or do I say, I want your blessings, not the blesser. I want your saving from my pain right now, please, Jesus. Not the Savior, not the cross. You already saved me. Do I want more the giver or the giving? That's where we want joy, from the giving, from the blessing, from the saving. Jesus did it on the cross. That's where our joy is. I know sometimes I treat God like he's a vending machine. I put in my $2 prayer and I expect him to fix my issues. But maybe it's in the suffering. It's where Christ meets us. Had it not been for pain, I wouldn't even be so excited today to tell you that there is hope in the pain. There is joy in the pain. And that is my testimony. And I want for us right now to take a few moments and just quietly look at the screen and just meditate on these truths.